Well, hello there, neighbor. It's Mr. Rogers and King Friday. We'll just take a look at our quotable notables and a guy who weighs 143 pounds his whole life. And just all these Lady Elaine, the owl dude, the other guy, the scaredy mouse, I guess, or cat. I don't remember who he was exactly. But Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. This was always a culturally significant and important media thing for me. I think it was always comforting and peaceful and just nice. So we're gonna go to the schoolyard of make believe here. Do 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 do. Do, do, do. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, a beautiful day for a neighbor. Would you be mine? Could you be mine? It's a neighborly day in the neighborhood. Da, 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 da. Would you mind? I've always wanted to live in a neighborhood with you, so let's make the most of this wonderful day. Since we're together, we might as well say, would you be mine? Could you be mine? Won't you be my neighbor? Won't you please? Oh, won't you please be my neighbor? Well, hello there, neighbor. I like you just the way you are. And I'm going to go over this happy little thing in just a minute. It was kind of what I visually wanted to focus on for this video. I just felt that the positivity and the values and the culture and the environment that Mr. Rogers created with his show was just something you don't see much in a lot of other media stuff. He was born in 1928, and March 20th, 1928, and he died February 27th, 2003. I'm shooting this video on Martin Luther King's weekend in 2023. I'm going to upload this on his birthday or have it premiere, and it's cool to schedule stuff ahead of time and just do that. But I just felt like he's one of the few media people I would actually put effort into talking about and respecting and all that stuff. He was bullied some when he was growing up. He was kind of fat and lonely and sick and all that. He came from a very wealthy Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania family. There was a Rogers McFeely Foundation. McFeely was his mother's maiden name. There's a ton of information about him on Find a Grave. The plant ended up unionizing, I believe, over um, World War II, and they made bricks. They were brick manufacturers, so it's just interesting. But he had an East Side apartment in Manhattan, and they gave him a Segway grand piano, not baby grand, the full grand piano when he was growing up. So he definitely was a child of privilege and opportunity. But that also, they said, the wealth and the power that he grew up in did not make Fred Rogers. It made Mr. Rogers. Because he had the independent wealth and all that stuff, he didn't have to chase after money. He didn't have to commercialize his content. He didn't have to go on NBC or that. He went on the Pittsburgh station. They said his family helped bankroll that as well. But it's interesting to see it on how he was able to really create this persona and really do a lot of things that transcended commercialization and commodifying kids and childhood and all that, to just try to understand deeper values, deeper feelings, and a deeper connection. And I really like that. And to some extent, that's really where I would like to do certain things within my life. I don't feel like I'm at that point yet, but where I could focus my energy and my time on non commercial values and more on community building and on just doing more positive things for people. anyhow, that's kind of the economic background. He also had a house in Nantucket, and there's been a lot of movies about Mr. Rogers. The first movie I saw in probably 10 years in a movie theater was the Won't You Be My Neighbor, the one that featured Tom Hanks. I liked that a fair amount. That was before COVID hit, and I drove over to the theater in 2019 and I saw the movie. I don't miss movie theaters, though. Not a big fan of the movie theaters. But it was still a good movie. I'm glad I got to see it. I just have a lot of respect for Mr. Rogers for how he did things, how he used the neighborhood of make believe so people knew Mr. Rogers when he was in town and he was doing stuff, he was in reality. But the neighborhood of make believe, you take the trolley and you go there and you know it's all made up. He was able to differentiate Fantasyland from reality. And he kept it simple, he kept it affordable. He didn't use flashbang graphics or any of this other stuff that a lot of these things, these shows use. And was just a really good series. It's probably one of my favorite. I'd probably put it as the number one childhood show growing up because it was just this connection you'd make. Um, I actually had a high school guidance counselor who retired at the end of last year, and he kind of reminded me of, to some extent, of Mr. Rogers, with just how he'd listen to people and he'd care about people and he'd do things with the community. But anyhow, that's kind of another note. I just kind of wanted to use this as my Mr. Rogers soapbox remembrance and all that. And I feel like people should strive to be more like Mr. Rogers. Should strive to, just be more honest and more accepting. He was a Presbyterian minister, Mr. Rogers was. He had a divinity degree and all that, but he never pushed religious dogma and doctrine a whole lot. His whole thing was more be good to others. They have the whole quote about always look for the helpers, always do that. His email address was ZZZ143, and 143 means I is the letter, love is the 4, you is the 3. And so it was really interesting to just see how um, significant that was for Mr. Rogers. He was a vegetarian, and he weighed 143 pounds through most of his life, his adult life. He swam every day and really tried to make the most out of his life when he was alive. He only lived to be about 74 years old, which in a lot of ways really isn't that old, but he made the most out of his years. He worked on his show. He basically had this vision of Mr. Rogers, and he did the show for a number of years. I think the original set was from like 68 to the mid 70s, then from 79 until 2001. He did Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And I don't know, I always liked the opening sequence where they would go and they'd come into the neighborhood. You have all these miniatures. And then also, I always love, and I watched this TV show a lot, How It's Made. He always did this stuff every so often where they're like, hey, it's picture in picture, kids. And Speedy Delivery, Mr. McFeely would come in and talk to us about, have a video that would be all about something on how it's made or how it would work or whatever, and take us to a factory and just see some cool stuff. Just watching that how it's made stuff from Mr. Rogers in and of itself still cool today. And then he had the yo-yo dude who like played music and the violin or some wind or some instrument. He just had this really cool variety of people that really helped expose people to younger people or artists and different cultures, different perspectives, all that stuff. It was cool. I really enjoyed just that series and all that stuff. I'm gonna probably start wrapping this up a bit. I'm gonna go through some of the magnets I have here. So here we go. It's a beautiful day in the neighborhood, and be kind. And then we have several on the side here. I like you just the way you are. And then It's good to be curious about many things. There's a PBS remix that was done about that. And then his thank you for being you. So I am a big magnet collector. I collect hats, magnets, telephones, die-cast cars. I tend to collect a lot of stuff. Anyhow, um, I dig my Mr. Rogers magnets. I think it's good to just have these happy little magnets there right next to some Bob Ross. Just some good old fashioned PBS content. And it's just interesting on how all that stuff kind of works out and what influence that person would have on people's lives and all that. And I hope you enjoy reminiscing about this, you know, this man, this myth, this legend of Mr. Rogers. And hopefully my video here did it some justice. I'm probably going to be doing some videos about limousines. I had the sticker on there forever, and that's probably the next few um, videos. I have a whole collection of them for my diecast stuff, just to give you an update with that. I predominantly do diecast videos, but then I'll do a long form one for things that are significant anniversaries or significant content that I feel could be covered in hopefully a life enriching way. But anyhow, feel free to like, subscribe, and share, and have a good day. Oh, the last thing, 143 Club. I joined that. It's the $143 club if you donate it to the Mr. Rogers Institute. I never gave any money to Mr. Rogers over the years, never bought anything in that, but I thought for the 20th anniversary of his passing, to do the $143 for the Mr. Rogers Institute would be appropriate and fitting. I don't see me giving money to that again, but I think when I did give it, it was worth it. Um, and I think that's about it for what I have to go over, what I have to say. I could go on and on a lot more about this, but I feel like I've covered enough things, and hopefully you've enjoyed it enough. And I'll put a link in the description of a lot of my sources, and also the Mr. Rogers Institute. Thanks.